Every once in a while, you have to thank you have to thank the teen drama gods for good food, because we're eating well tonight. This is a book review, I guess. We're covering a book. It's called Freaks, Gleeks, and Dawson's Creek: How 17 Shows Transformed Television by Thea Glassman. I have a suspicion this book was written just for me, and you. That's why I'm covering it. If you've been a fan of my channel, um, she's basically covered every show we've talked about. In here you have My So-Called Life, Dawson's Creek, Freaks and Geeks, The OC, Friday Night Lights, and then two shows we haven't examined yet, Glee and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Um, yeah, yeah, it's the perfect Your Cult Boyfriend book. There's a lot of fun behind the scenes stories. What's a lot more interesting than that are the we actually get to go inside the brains of the showrunners here. So there's a really, really good bits, good moments with like Winnie Holtzman from My So-Called Life, as well as Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage for the OC, and Jason Katims, who I didn't even know started on My So-Called Life until I read this book. We get to spend a lot of time with him while he's doing Friday Night Lights. We get to get inside the mind of the showrunner here. There's a lot of good information in this book, and think the best part about it is Thea Glassman herself. Um, I think the prose is pretty sharp. I think it's written extremely well, and it's pretty consistent from chapter to chapter. But the best parts of every chapter are these little slices of, like, I don't know, pathos, emotional viscera from Thea Glassman. Um, she'll she'll give her own, like, seemingly like hypersensitive response to the shows themselves. Like she'll talk about how My So-Called Life was so engaging to her. She'll talk about on the OC how like the first time she experienced the episodes was like something about like cradling her father's laptop when she was supposed to be asleep. She'd talk about Dawson's Creek and how many times she rewound the part where Pacey says, "I remember everything." Those are the parts that are really magical to me. I think the best, like, because that's the stuff that gets me. Like I love learning behind the scenes stuff, but it's the emotional viscera. It's the actual like emotional response to teen drama and to teen shows that excites me most, that I find most interesting and unique and valuable. The part of the book that made me think the most, that made me go, "Oh my God, that's fucking dope," was Glassman sharing a personal anecdote from like one of her friends, and it's her friend's response to I don't want to do too many spoilers here, but I'm going to, or else the anecdote makes no fucking sense. To Marissa Cooper's death in season 3 of the OC, and it's a really great part of this book where her friend is like, um, you know, she had asked her mom to tape it for her because she had like dance rehearsal or something, dance practice, and then when she got home, her mom like accidentally recorded the QVC channel instead. It recorded the wrong material on television, so she didn't know what happened to Marissa Cooper, and she tried to go the whole next day at school, um, without finding out, without getting any spoilers. But ultimately, she found out that Marissa Cooper had died, and she felt like crushed. She there's this really poetic part where she goes, "I felt that just like everyone else in her life, I had let Marissa Cooper down." And I was like, "Fuck." See, that's it. That's what makes teen television so different and interesting. So much more powerful than other kinds of shows because of the attachment, because of the passion that is felt by its audience, who are primarily teenagers, and the amount of historical identification they have with the characters on television, that makes it so powerful. I thought parts like that, which there are like quick personal things in each chapter, but the chapters are overwhelmingly comprised, understandably, of basically how the shows were developed and a lot of behind the scenes information, some fun trivia, and it's trying to piece together the narrative of teen shows themselves. But I think in a more impressive way, Thea Glassman is positing that teen shows are just as significant to television, if not more significant than the more prestige shows, the shows like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad or Mad Men or Game of Thrones or The Wire. That teen shows actually did more for television than shows like those did. Um, and she's right. Sh in her thesis, she lays out that it's always teen television that's the most progressive. It's always teen television that is pushing the boundaries. In my opinion, they push boundaries in postmodern ways, like the very frameworks of television itself, the very frameworks of narrative storytelling are being challenged by great teen shows like Dawson's Creek and Gossip Girl, for instance. Uh, what Thea Glassman is most dedicated to kind of using to support her thesis is that uh, they are the most progressive in the sense of like POC representation, gay visibility, those kinds of things. And she's absolutely right. It's always teen shows who take those first, like, desperately human and empathetic steps in progressive directions when it comes to those things. And I just think books like these deserve praise, and I'm so happy they're being written. I've dedicated most of my analysis over the past couple years, like exclusively to teen shows and teen dramas and teen movies, because I think that those things matter. I think that teen shows matter, and it's not just they don't just matter nostalgically, although that's fascinating too. I think that teenage feelings are eternal. There's an eternal teenager inside of all of us, and some of us feel embarrassed by the eternal teenager that we all have inside. It makes some of us feel insecure, right? And it also makes some of us feel less alone or entirely alone. The feelings of the eternal teen, I think, are the most complicated feelings and confrontational ones that we carry around with us all the time. Uh, but we can also like revisit those things, revisit those life-defining moments that we used to have. I personally am very invested in form and in philosophy, and I think that teen shows experiment with emotion, with philosophy, with structure, with pacing and rhyming images and rhyming themes better than any other art form, right? I think that teen shows and teen dramas are that's the best. That's the best that narrative art gets. That's the best. So I think that every time a book like this comes out, we should take a second and praise it because um I'm pretty impressed by it. It's a very fun read and it's a very quick read. I got through it in like a day, but I am literally the target audience for this book, right? So like maybe other people will get through it slower, but I just ate the whole thing up. I was like so into it. I think the best chapter is the one on the OC. I felt a lot from Thea Glassman's writing in there that made me feel like this was a more meaningful one for her. And even more than that, I fell in love with Stephanie Savage reading this book. Well, I guess I fell in love with Stephanie Savage when I was analyzing and covering Gossip Girl for the channel, where I slowly realized just how important she was. Because when I covered the OC, I had like, I thought it was mostly Josh Schwartz, right? And Josh Schwartz is a huge part of the show, but he's like the guts of the show. Stephanie Savage is the heart, is the brain, is literally everything else. Josh Schwartz is the viscera of Gossip Girl and the OC. Stephanie Savage, I loved reading her interviews here. I loved reading her input here, her stories. I loved reading that like she would get really emotional at parts that I also got very emotional at. And I was like, these were magical moments. These were so good. I love Stephanie Savage's approach to coming up with the idea for the show, going, it's the fucking Breakfast Club. That's what it is. I loved reading about Stephanie Savage here. I had not a newfound respect or appreciation because I always deeply respected and appreciated her, but uh and I think I always considered her a genius primarily because of Gossip Girl. And around season 3, I realized that I think this is Stephanie Savage's show more than Josh Schwartz's, but regardless. This book helped me appreciate people like Stephanie Savage a lot more, and like I love her to death because of this book and reading some of the stuff that she had to say about form, about themes, about characters, and being able to see just how much the show moved her. Like it moved her just as much as it moved me or moved you or moved other fans of the show. Like it moved her to the core as well. Like these shows weren't made by cynical, jaded like people who are trying to exploit teenage problems or young actors. They were made by people who were deeply like deeply invested in these themes and in these characters just like you and I were. And Stephanie Savage, I think, fucking deserves to be in our Hall of Fame. She's excellent. Beyond that, I already knew that like Winnie Holtzman was awesome, but it was great reading her interviews here. If I have any sort of criticism, I mean, I do have criticism, so let's just get into those. I don't think the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air should be here at all. No, 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 no. We're talking about teen shows, right? We're talking about teen shows and primarily teen dramas. I think if the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't here, you wouldn't say teen shows. You'd say teen dramas, but since you had to include the Fresh Prince, you had to say teen shows instead. Fresh Prince did nothing for the teen show. It did a lot for sitcoms, and this was a book about sitcoms. Fresh Prince would be integral. Massive. It would be a massively important show to talk about, but we're talking about teen dramas. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air did nothing, did not improve the visual vocabulary, did not improve the emotional gravitas of the art form. It seems like My So-Called Life should have been the first chapter because every subsequent chapter, every other show that they talk about seems to be built off of the themes and the ideas and the goals originally envisioned and expressed in My So-Called Life. My So-Called Life should have been the first chapter because clearly that show was the foundation of every other show you're talking about, not The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Not at all. I don't like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but even if I did, it shouldn't be here. Uh, I think trying to I think it's the author trying to make a point very early on, and in a way that I find kind of awkward, like trying to support her thesis that teen shows were always really progressive and pushing things forward. Fine, you want to cover like a black show? Let's talk about Sister Sister instead. Let's do that. I think that show's a lot better, and you'd get to talk about Bianca Lawson. Everyone would win. That's another criticism. I love this book, so don't think any of my criticism is harsh. I'm just a passionate person. I think in my heart of hearts, there is a king and a queen of teen drama, neither of which are featured in this book. It's like maybe someone made a bet with you and you won it. Somehow you wrote an entire book without talking about these two people. King, Chad Michael Murray, and Queen Bianca Lawson. Chad is mentioned. He's mentioned. But how did you write a whole book on teen shows and not have a couple pages devoted to Chad Michael Murray and Bianca Lawson? Especially Bianca Lawson. Bianca Lawson was in literally everything. Well, I think between those two actors, you get every teen drama that was ever important. Every single one. Oh my God, Bianca Lawson, you get My So-Called Life, you get Dawson's Creek, you get Pretty Little Liars, you get Teen Wolf, you get Sister Sister, you get Saved by the Bell, like the new generation or whatever the fuck. The Secret Life of the American Teenager. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We haven't even gotten to Chad Michael Murray yet. We can also do a One Tree Hill, which, oh my God, get rid of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or something, or make the book longer. One Tree Hill should have been here. No jokes. One Tree Hill should have been here. Fine, I digress. But Chad, you got like One Tree Hill and Gilmore Girls and Riverdale, Dawson's Creek as well. And I think they have a lot of physical poetry to them. There's a lot of power to Chad Michael Murray. There is certainly a lot of power to Bianca Lawson. They're both extremely sexy and they're both extremely sensitive and so many people put so many feelings onto them and continue to do so. And Bianca Lawson, if we want to remain true to your thesis of like representation of people of color, especially like even women of color, Bianca Lawson being this kind of like teen drama chameleon, just appearing in every single show and always giving it 110 fucking percent. And maybe you, Thea Glassman, could figure out why no show, all the way up to like Pretty Little Liars and Teen Wolf, no show ever made her a complete series regular. Like, that's something I think we need to figure out because she was always perfect. And my God, she was beautiful, but she was always perfect. And Chad Michael Murray, I don't, your teen drama isn't even real without him there. It's just, I don't understand how an entire book was written about the impact and the evolution of teen shows without talking about Bianca Lawson, without focusing on Chad Michael Murray. I don't understand how that happened. But it did. I'm holding it. It shouldn't exist. It should be phasing in and out of reality because that should be impossible. Justice for Bianca Lawson is what I'm saying. But I think ultimately that is a very your cult boyfriend a TM criticism. That doesn't actually matter. I just think Bianca Lawson and Chad Michael Murray is the queen and king of teen shows. So I don't know, maybe I am saying it matters. I love the chapter on Friday Night Lights as well. I just finished analyzing and putting together all my Friday Night Lights videos, and a part of me wishes I read this chapter first because it made me appreciate Jason Katims a lot more, especially Peter Berg a lot more. Um, there's a lot of good information here, but my favorite part of the book is the is the are those more private moments that Thea Glassman shares about her experiences with the show because I think that that's also where the power lies. No one watches a Sopranos or a Mad Men and gets so obsessed and so emotionally involved with these characters. Not to the point that teen characters do with teenagers. That's something special, and that's something fleeting, and that's something temporal, something really poetic. The characters in these shows, the characters of Dawson's Creek and the OC and Friday Night Lights possessed physical poetry, and it's a poetry that if you see it at the right age, it stays with you, and you live in those verses. The verse of Tim Riggins. You live in the stanzas of Seth Cohen and Marissa Cooper. You That's where you live. You live in the ballad of Jen Lindley. Like that's where you are. And it's a special place. It's a special feeling. It's a really heartfelt kind of feeling that I can still feel, and I think that that's beautiful. And I think that Thea Glassman's entirely right. Obviously, big shocker that that teen shows are not only valid and valuable, they're incredibly innovative. They've always been progressive, and I think paved the way for television's best art. I think they represent the best art of television. I think that it was a really inspired idea to try to tell the narrative of the evolution of the teen drama or the teen show. Um, Trying to tell it as a narrative of coming of age book about coming of age shows, right? I think that that's really neat. I think that that's really an inspired idea. And I think it's coherent, and I think it makes sense by the end of the book as well. I think that every fan of teen shows should read this book, and I think it's really exciting and really fun. Um, it's not a deep book, right? But that's fine. I don't think it should be. I think that if you get too deep, you alienate a lot of people. Just look at me. Just look at my channel. Come on. Don't get too deep. She doesn't get too deep. This is just right. Uh, and I think it's another step towards legitimizing the power and the artistry and the depth of these teen shows. Um, And the closer we get to everyone being just like me and thinking that Dawson's Creek is Shakespeare, the closer we get to that, uh, the better off we are as a world. The better art is for sure. The better criticism is as well. The audience is always the most important part of anything. It's the audience that transforms whatever is being viewed. That's what makes art so cool, right? Because it turns a normal, everyday person into an artist, even for just a millisecond, as they try to engage and interpret and identify with the piece. The audience is always the most important part. And the audience of the teen shows are the most magnified audiences possible because they are the most hysterical, because they do identify the strongest with these characters in like romantic ways and fantastical ones. The audience has transformed shows like The OC and Dawson's Creek and Friday Night Lights and Glee into actual parts of themselves. And Thea Glassman, being a fan of these shows and being a pretty skilled writer and a great interviewer, is able to transform these shows once more to align them to group them all together and find the coherent narrative that unifies all of them together. Right? The audience always transforms the shows, and uh, it would be a lot of fun, and it'd be pretty cool to see if a book like this could transform the way people view teen shows as a narrative of television artistry through teen dilemmas and teen narratives. I think that would be really awesome. I don't mind that Glee was here. I would have put Pretty Little Liars here instead, but that's just me. I think I'm Arlene King is I th- I think Pretty Little Liars is more interesting to talk about than Glee, but Ryan Murphy is you can't ignore Ryan Murphy. He demands to be talked about, and I hope I never cover Glee, but I can't say for a fact that I won't. Ryan Murphy demands to be acknowledged and engaged with. And also talking about Glee fits the narrative that Glassman created here more than Pretty Little Liars would, considering that part of her narrative is about queer exposure, queer representation, and I think Glee did a lot for that. Pretty Little Liars didn't do as much with that, but I don't view teen shows in the same way that Thea Glassman does. I'm more interested in postmodern qualities of these shows and in the kind of everlasting physical poetry of the characters that were created in the shows. Um, Thea Glassman is a lot more interested in, I think, more practical concerns and ultimately more useful ones. Let's be real. Um, I think it is more useful if you're trying to legitimize teen drama and make it form into a coherent narrative. If you're trying to prove the value of teen shows, then I think you should try to demonstrate the progressive qualities they have, the politically progressive ones that they have, and just how much they meant for unseen or underrepresented young people. How much these shows meant to them. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. I'm just not as interested in those things. Not that I ignore those things. I definitely talk about about things like that. I just that's like number 12 or 13 on my list of why teen shows are the greatest form of art ever. It's like it's really cool. That's really cool, but that's like number fucking 12 or 13 on my list of why teen shows are the ultimate form of art. All in all, I really recommend that you read this book. Get the numbers up. Get the numbers up. Show people that you're interested in these kinds of discussions about art that is still seen as lesser, about art that is still not taken seriously. Buy this book, engage with this book, and send a message that you are interested in taking shows that aren't taken seriously very seriously. Send a message that you think Dawson's Creek is fucking Shakespeare. Do it. Read this book and it'll make you feel pretty nostalgic and ultimately hopeful about the future of teen television and teen art. I'm just very impressed by the narrative she was able to visualize and express, unifying all these different shows together. That was good. I was inspired. That was nice. And yeah, like I said, it was coherent and very articulate about it. And in the end, undeniable. That's pretty cool. Most of all, it's a very fun book. And yeah, you'll get through it really quick because it's written refreshingly well. And there are parts that will make you feel pretty sentimental, and I think that's ultimately a good thing as well. So buy this book, do it, read it, show people you want to have these discussions about these sorts of shows. Yeah, good job, Thea Glassman. Yeah, that's all.